I'm live. So I'm trying to check if everything is set. Can I use satin to paint without screening? Yes, you can use satin without screening. I did not schedule anything now. I click go live and this thing is showing. This one is showing that I'm live, Abi. Why is it now showing? It's showing. It's showing some. Okay, live. Yeah. It's showing scheduled. Yes, you can use satin without screening. In fact, we have a video that's coming up that we show you where we painted satin without screening. The only thing you need to make sure you do. Hello? Yes, you can use satin without screening. In fact, we have a video that's coming up that we show you where we painted satin without screening. The only thing you need to make sure you do. Okay, let me go. Please give me a few seconds. Let's go live on Facebook. That will be the first time we're going live on Facebook. All right, guys, welcome to all the Facebook fans in the room. Welcome to TikTok fans. Welcome to everybody. This is going to be an amazing live session. You guys are going to enjoy every bit of this particular live. So I'm seeing some questions in the chat already. So if you are also in the chat, make sure you ask your question. If you have anything you want to ask your question in the chat. I'll be here to respond to you. If you cannot hear me, please do me a favor. Please let me know, because the other live I did, I did not know the audio was not working, and people did not tell me in the chat. So, it was very, very, very. It was not too good for me. So can you use satin without screening? The answer is yes. You can use satin paint without screening your wall, but there are some things you should put into consideration. The number one thing you should know is that if your wall, the wall you want to paint satin on, is not that smooth, that is, the plastering is not smooth, satin is olofofo, like it will tell people that okay, this place is not smooth. So which means when you paint the satin on it, all the roughness will show. Even people that are not close to that particular wall, we see that the wall is not smooth. So instead of this, if you want to hide that particular issue, which is your wall roughness, the best thing you can do is to put emulsion paint or matte paint. But if you want something that's smooth and you still want to use satin, it's better. The best thing you can do is to do screening on that particular wall. In fact, we recently did a video which will be going live, which we'll be posting very soon, on how satin paint will look on your wall without screening. So without screening, for that particular situation, we use a primer, so you actually see. So just make sure you follow us so that you can see that particular video when it comes live. So our satin 4 liters is 19,000 around. Satin 4 liters is 19,000. So emulsion is 19,000 for the 20 liters. Emulsion is 19,000 for the 20 liters. Guys, okay. Hello, do you work outside your state? Yes, we work outside Lagos, but mostly in the southwest. We work mostly in the southwest. So location is after Awoyaya, so that's Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya. For those of you that knows the Lekki Ekpe Expressway, as if you are going to Ekpe, so that Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya. So if you want this description of the road, just call this number 09043575896, 09043575896. So that's the phone number to call. So if you want description of the road, 09043575896. Yes, we walk outside Lake. So 09043575896. So Facebook, thank you to Busurat Oguneye. Thank you very much. So thank you very much for watching on Facebook. Why is this thing bending? Risi, risi.
The load is heavier than the
It's
head.
heavier than the. So Terry John is watching. Thank you to Terry John. Thank you to everybody on Facebook who is watching. How do you apply your primer? So the best way to apply primer is to know whether the primer is oil based or water based. What do I mean? For most primer, it is either it's a solvent based or an oil based. So, but for solvent based, which is in most cases water based, you use water to dilute it, and in some cases, depending on the manufacturer, in some cases you don't need to dilute the primer, it's already watery already. But in most cases you need to add little water to the primer to make sure you can use it. It will look smooth and it will not be having patterns on your wall. So most manufacturers will tell you that this is an oil base or this is water base. For example, this particular primer is oil base, which means you can use thinner or you can use petrol. This particular one, which is our own primer, is oil based, which means you can either use thinner or you use or petrol to mix it. Don't use water for this type of primer, because most of the time the manufacturer will write it at the bottom. For this one now, they said thin accordingly. So they said thin accordingly if necessary. Paint thinner is recommended. So that is, thinner is recommended. So if you cannot get thinner, get petrol to mix it. That's the right thing to use. Don't put water in this thing, because immediately you put water, you see that it is not mixing well. So but for water based primer, you can use water to dilute it. For those kind of primer, they will write it at the back of the bucket that says use water to thin, and they will tell you the number of liters of water you can also add. So that is primer for you. So you can use water or you can use oil depending on the type of primer you use. So after mixing it with water, you can just roll it. You paint it like normal paint. You paint it on your wall, and then after you wait for it to dry. Usually within 2 hours it will have dried. So after that, you can then apply your paint on it. But if you notice some lines or some imperfections on the primer, after you have painted it, you can sandpaper it lightly, so that you can get an even finish before you now put your paint. So it says, somebody says, which between oil based primer and water based primer, which one is the best? The answer is it depends on what you want to use it for. So there are some water based primer that, from my own experience, most oil based primer have low coverage. Like this, like you need more to cover you need more of it to cover a large area. So but for water based primer, in most cases they are economic in nature. So that is, you can use a little bit of it to cover a wide space. For example, for most of the projects we do, we normally, if it is big projects, we normally use water based primer. Why? Because it's economical in nature. If you immediately you step into using oil based primer, you are going to spend a lot of money. Why? Because for water based, even from the solvent, from the material you use to dilute it, for water based, water is usually easily available and it is free. But for oil based, you have to buy petrol or you buy thinner. So that's it. And even when you mix them together, you will notice that water based primer will go a long way than oil based primer. In most cases, you can use like 5 buckets for a very very big place, but for oil based primer, trust me, even 5 buckets, you are just getting started. So water based primer is usually much economical, and they both do the same thing, even though oil based primer in most cases also have certain advantage over the water based primer. But in general, water based primer is more preferable when it comes to big projects. But if you are somebody that needs something to just cover stain in your room, you need something that will cover stain, and you can use it. So oil based primer is very very good. So the primer you can use for stucco, you can use any of the two primers for stucco as well. So for now, we are still working on our graphic paint. Very very soon now, very very soon, in a short period of time, you will start getting the graphic paint. So people are asking, your Facebook Messenger, I sent you a message since last week. Oh, sorry, Fatima Momini. We'll respond to you. Sorry, we'll respond to you. I'll check after this live. I'll check. Thank you to Sulaiman Shaibu for joining the live. Thank you very much on Facebook. Guys, thank you to everybody who has been double tapping on the screen on this particular live. on TikTok. Samuel Life, thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Topi, thank you for the question. So let's move on to some questions people have been asking. A lot of questions right here. So a lot of questions. Oh, no. So a lot of questions right here. So that's the phone number to call. So if you want this TikTok, Samuel Live, thank you very much. Okay. I have to keep checking because
Okay, make just one of it.
the last recording I did was very stressful. Thank you to Sanchai. Thank you to Bondok Edmond for watching on Facebook. Thank you to everybody who is joining on Facebook. Thank you to the guys on YouTube as well. Thank you to you guys. Thank you to guys on TikTok. Please reply my message on WhatsApp. Mr. Bamidele Oluwakayode, I think I've seen your message. I'll respond to you. I'll respond to you. So if you need anything, but it's a voice note, I might not be able to respond now. So it's a voice note. I'll respond to you actually, so that I don't know what you put in the voice note, so that I will not play it. It might be personal message. So I'll respond to you. So 09043575896. That's the number to reach out to on WhatsApp if you want to place any order. So after this particular session, we are going to go into a session where I'll be showing you how to use. Please help me with water. Be careful with this phone. It's not too stable. So I'll be showing you how to use some of our products, satin, our top mode defense. So Terry John, thank you. King Pablo, so WhatsApp number is 09043575896. Thank you to Mr. Ayodele Oshundairo. Where did they even send message on this? So the number is 09043575896. WhatsApp. So it's also the same number on my profile. So pin comments. Okay. So that's the number on the screen. 09043575896. That's the number on the screen. So 09043575896. So Mr. Samzi, I'm seeing your call. So but I can't pick call right now. I'll have to decline. So after the chat, I'll respond to you. Let me see. Let's answer some questions people have been asking. Your one experimented with styroling. This is how to save cost on painting. So this is how to save cost on painting. If you have a tiling design wall, the best thing you can do if you are considering money and you want to use high grade paints like weathermask, matte, or any other high grade paint, is to paint the wall with emulsion paint first, or any other low grade paint like ordinary standard emulsion paint first as your base coat. Then after that, you can now bring the weather mask or mat and use it for the second coat. So that way you are saving money. Why? Because styroling wall usually soak paint. It's just like you dipping foam inside water. The first dip you dip the foam inside water, it will soak more paint, more water. But the second dip you dip it inside water, it might not soak as much for the second one. So that's what you need. So you need emulsion to go first, because emulsion ordinary emulsion paint is usually much cheaper compared to all this weather mask and matte. So you use emulsion paint first, then for the first coat. When it dry, then you use weather mask for the second coat. So that will also that will serve you well. Thank you to everybody who is up tapping on the screen. I really appreciate you. How much is Costa 2K? Costa 2K is 70,000. 70,000. Crystal coat is 80,000. Costa 2K is 70,000. Crystal coat is 80,000. Okay, I think we've answered this particular question. Let's move on to the next question. Should you sandpaper your wall after you use a primer? The answer is yes and no. So this is the condition that will warrant you sandpapering your wall after you use a primer. And that is when you notice that after you use your primer you are seeing some lines on the wall, or some bumpiness, some slight thing that's not that uniform on the wall, then you can slightly sandpaper it before you put anything on it. But generally, if you feel like okay, you want to be sure, like you want to be careful enough so that you won't get any problem after you have paint, yes, you can sandpaper it slightly. You can, after putting primer, you can sandpaper the wall lightly. But if you don't have the time, or maybe the work they have you they say you should complete the work in a very short time, yes, you can just sandpaper the you can sandpaper those areas that have issue, and then paint whatever paint you want to put. But generally, always sandpaper your primer before you put whatever paint, whether it's matte or satin paint on it. So how much, please, how much is satin paint one drum? Satin paint is 72,000, 72,000 naira, 72,000 naira for satin paint. This is 20 liter. It comes in different color. Sir, can I get your product around Akute? No, we don't have any branch in Akute, but we can waybill to you anywhere you are in Akute. Thank you to Mr. Temitope Sulaiman on Facebook. Thank you very much for that wonderful comments. Thank you. I really appreciate you. So we can waybill to you in Akute. We've done one project in Akute before, so we can waybill to you in Akute. So we have an order going to Abeokuta tomorrow. So we delivered to Agbo this morning. Another one is going to Abuja. So we deliver to almost anywhere in Nigeria. So our store is located at Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya in Lagos here. So that's Lekki Epe Expressway. Thank you to Ocean Nest. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, after Awoyaya. So you can message us 09043575896. So between Graphites and Tyrolean, which one is better? The answer is both are good. It depends on the kind of design you want on your wall. So both of them are good, and it also depends on the economics of it. In most cases, Graphites is usually more expensive than Tyrolean to install. Why? Because Graphites require more technical skills than Tyrolean. Yes, even though, why? Because even in terms of the material. Now, okay, Graphites requires more technical skills because there are few people that knows how to do Graphites, but Tyrolean has been in existence, like people have been using it in Nigeria, so a lot of people now know how to use Tyrolean. The other thing you need to consider is in the material. Now the material they use for Graphites is quite expensive, and the coverage is not as high as that of Tyrolean. Why? So it's expensive. So the material for Graphites, they use Graphites paint, but for Tyrolean they use cement and sand, which is usually very available. So but for Graphites you have to buy it, and it's not every paint company that produce Graphites. So Graphites in terms of cost is more expensive compared to Tyrolean, but both of them are good if cost is not your issue. So you can use any of them, Graphites or Tyrolean. So any of them, it just depends on the kind of pattern you want on your wall. Graphites has different pattern, Tyrolean too has different pattern. So most people just think Tyrolean is just that rough wall. No, if you see where they do Tyrolean very well, you love it, and if you see where they do Graphites too very well, you also love it. So both of them are good, but if you are considering cost, go for Tyrolean. But if you are considering beauty and what is in vogue right now, you can go for Graphites. So if you want to apply Costa 2K on the wall, so just send us a DM. I'll send you video of how to apply it. So our store is located after Awoyaya. So Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya, Lekki Epe Expressway. So message us on WhatsApp 09043575896. That's the number to message on WhatsApp. Thank you to Mr. Sulaiman for staying on. 09043575896. That's the number to message on WhatsApp. We'll be there to respond to you. If you have an underground tank water tank and you want to treat it for water, or you have a fish pond and you want to treat it for water, the best material you can use is Costa 2K and Crystal Coat. Don't go and say you want to do squidding, don't use anything. Just go for waterproof materials like Costa 2K and Crystal Coat. So what you need to do is to remove the plaster. If you have already plastered that place, remove the plaster, apply Crystal Coat. Once it's dry, then you now apply Costa 2K on that particular wall, and then you can replaster the surface back. So there are also some chemicals you can also apply on the surface of that particular pond, so that water will not disturb the surface of the plaster itself. So that is the proper way to waterproof a fish pond or an underground tank. So why? Because this is a place where water will be touching every time, so make sure you waterproof it properly. This is also something you should do in your bathroom. Even though you are installing tiles, it is very good to have all this waterproof material installed first before you now do tiling in your bathroom as well. So if you have masonry wall on your wall, like all this red brick on your wall, what type of paint should you use? The best paint you can use are emulsion paints like matte, weather mask, and ordinary emulsion paint. So like in Nigeria here, this type of wall are not that common, but in all this US, UK, especially in the UK, you see all their walls painted. They use all these red bricks, and the best paint you can use is matte or weather mask or emulsion. So and the standard process you use is still the same process you use to paint the normal wall. Just you can sandpaper the surface if there are some things on it, and then you can also get a primer and then you paint on it. The only thing is that when you want to paint it, you might not get the red bricks like paint again, unless you are painting it red. So but you can still paint it white, black, brown, just the normal way you paint the normal house. So because it's made out of concrete as well, and your wall too is made of concrete, so you can paint it the same way you paint normal concrete wall. So that is how to paint your masonry wall. Thank you to everybody who has been double tapping on the screen. I really appreciate you. If you have any question, leave it in the chat. If you have any question, leave it in the chat. So if you are talking of Armstrong Paints is from Oshogbo. That's where our head office is. That's Marites Augustine. Thank you very much for that question. But we have a office in Lagos right here, Eputu bus stop after. Oh, yeah. So guys, let's top tap on the screen. If you want to do tyroline design on your wall, don't put paint inside the tyroline. This is what you need to do, and the proper way to apply tyroline on your wall. So the first thing you do is to apply the tyroline on the wall. Once it dry, it is very, very advisable for you to get a primer. Why? Because tyroline contains cement cement and sand, and anything that contains cement is bound to have effect on paint. So it's bound to have effect on paint. So what you need to do is to introduce a primer. So after that particular tyroline is dry, introduce a primer. You can use water-based primer for economic reason. Use water-based primer on it. Once that primer dries, then you can put your paint on it. It's not that you now mix the primer with the tyroline, or you mix the paint and primer with the tyroline. No, apply the tyroline on the wall first, as if you are doing plastering. Once it dry, put your primer. Once that primer dry, then that's when you now put you now paint on it, and then you have a beautiful finish. So don't mix it. That's not the right way to do it. Should you screed your wall without wall without plastering it? The answer is no. Why? Because screeding and plastering, like plastering itself has its advantage, and plastering is much thicker than screeding. Now plastering is meant to cover some things on your block, For example, all those lines that are on the block, plastering is meant to cover them, to block them, to cover them, so that people will not see that okay, this place has not been plastered before. People will not be seeing all those lines. But if you go and screed directly on your block, this is what will happen. You will notice that after you even squid, the lines will still be showing in the background. All those block lines will still be showing in the background, and people will even think you have not done the squiding. Even tyroline or all these other designs are not meant for your wall without plastering. So the best thing you can do if you want to do squiding is to do plastering first, because it will cover all those walls. It will cover a lot of reactions that will happen on your block, cover all those things before you now put your squiding. After that, you can now do your painting. No, don't do squiding. Don't do squiding on an empty, on an unplastered surface. Thank you to Olo Vicent. Thank you to everybody who has been joining on Facebook. Jade, Amara. Thank you everybody who is watching on Facebook. Thank you to B Court Glass Lounge. Thank you very much. Hi to you too. If you have any question, please leave it in the chat. I will respond to you. So primer and screening, are they different, or are they the same thing? The answer is no. Primer is different from screening. They do different work. Primer is meant to protect your paint from some certain reactions, while screening is meant to make sure your wall is smooth without bumpiness. So now, for example, for example, if you've seen a place they are doing road before, all this normal asphalt road, the first thing they do is to grade the road so that everything will be smooth. That is that is screening for you. So like they grade the road and then they put some sand, so that is screening for you. That sand they put to make everywhere flat, that is screening. So on your wall after they do plastering let me check, is it okay? So your wall after they do plastering, there's possibility that it will not be smooth. Even when they grade some roads, you see that it's not that smooth in some places, so they need to fill it, they level it. So screeding is meant for leveling your wall so that everywhere will be smooth. Now after that, you now put primer. So primer is just like the there are some also other layers they put when they are doing that road as well. There are some, they put different type of sand. So primer is also like that. So you put primer so that whatever it is you are painting on your wall will not be affected by the by let's say you use cement screening, by the cement. And primer is also meant to block some pores in your on your wall. Like, when you do screening, there are some small pores, small holes on the wall that though they are tiny, but immediately if you go and put paint directly on those walls, you realize that it will soak paint. So but instead of soaking your paint, you need to put primer so that it will soak the primer instead of your paint, thereby saving you cost in the long run. So the other thing the primer will also do is to ensure that whatever it is you want to put on the primer will stick very well to the wall, because primer is kind of sticky. So whatever it is you are putting on the primer will stick very well, thereby elongating the lifespan of your paints at the end of the day. So that is the essence of primer, and that's the difference between primer and screening. Screening is meant to make the wall flat. Primer is meant to protect your paint and to make it last longer. Should you use emulsion paint to paint your wooden door? The answer is no. Why? Because immediately you use emulsion paint to paint your wooden door, you notice certain thing on that particular door. One of the things you notice is that the door will not look beautiful, and the paint will look as if it's dripping on the wall. That is, as if they pour water on the door, and the paint will just be, Yoruba will say, is looking bala bala. So that's how it will look. So instead of that, the kind of paint you should use is gloss or satin paint. Why? Because this particular type of paint, they glue better, like they stick better to the wooden door than ordinary emulsion. Emulsion is chalky in nature, while those ones they are like top bond. They are gummy in nature, so they stick properly to the wooden door than emulsion paint. So instead of using emulsion paint on your door, use satin or gloss. Those are the best option. Thank you to IBL Autos. Thank you very much for the follow. I really appreciate you. So if you have any question, leave it in the chat. Thank you to John Ayela. Thank you to Omar. Thank you to Chihan. Thank you to everybody who is also watching on YouTube, guys. I really appreciate you guys. Uh, should you do screening before priming, or should you do priming before screening? The answer is you do screening first before you prime. So screening is meant to make your wall look flat and smooth. So it is after your wall looks flat and smooth before you now put primer. It's just like somebody doing people that do road construction. They first level the road before they now put asphalt on it. That's the same thing. Screening is meant to level the place before you now put priming on it. So you screen first so that all the contours and bumpiness on your wall, you level it off before you now put primer on it. So that's the right sequence. So after primer, that's where you now paint. Can you use alkali? Yes, you can still use alkali resisting primer even when you do putty screed, because primer, or whether alkali or any other primer, is meant to serve multiple purpose. So even though you do putty screed or even pop screeding, you can still use alkali resisting primer, because it will serve not only the fact that alkali resisting primer usually prevents alkali attack does not mean it does not do other things. There are other things it will do for your wall. For example, it will also make your paint stick better to the wall. You see all those places that people paint and then paint will be peeling at the end of the day, not because of water but because of the fact that they did not use primer. So if you use alkali resisting primer, it will make your paint stick better to that wall. The other thing it will also do is that it will help you block all those porous pores on the wall before you now paint. That is, the alkali resisting primer will serve as a base coat. That is the one that will go and soak inside the wall before you now put your paint, which means instead of your wall soaking the paint will be the primer is the one the wall will soak before you now put your paint on it, making sure this will ensure that the quantity of paint you end up using is more. So the other thing your primer will also do is it will elongate the lifespan of your paint. That is, instead of using maybe 2 years before, your paint can now use maybe 3 to 4 years. The other thing it will also do is that if you compare a place they put primer and a place they did not put primer, the place they put primer will show we have more depth. What do I mean by more depth? It will show the real beauty of that particular wall compared to the place they did not use primer. So depth is okay. Let's say, so you can paint blue and another person paints blue, you see that one is a little bit deeper and more beautiful than the other. So that place they put primer will look more beautiful than the other one that they did not put primer. So it's better to use primer, whether alkali resisting primer or any other primer, even though you did not use cement screed. Thank you to Mr. Awosiji. Mr. Awosiji, a long time friend of mine. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you. Amen. And you too. Terry John, thank you for sticking around. Thank you very much. So our location is Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya. Eputu bus stop after Awoyaya. This is Lekki Ekpe Expressway in Lagos here. So if you want to get our location, 09043575896. That's our WhatsApp number. 09043575896. That's the WhatsApp number to reach us. 09043575896. So if you have a primer, the best way to use a primer is to put it on the wall. You will not mix primer with paints. What you do is to after doing your screening, you paint the primer as if you are painting a normal paint. Primer is just like paint. If you see primer, you even think it's white paint, but it's not white paint, it's primer. So you paint it on the wall, you let it dry. It is after it dry now that you now come and paint your real paint on that particular wall. So that is primer. No, you will not mix primer with paint. If you mix it with paint, you won't get a good result. So the best thing to do is to paint it on the wall first. Once it's dry, that's when you now paint your normal paint on it. So that's how the best way to use a primer, any type of primer. Yes, if your house is in Ibadan, please send us a DM 0904357586. That's the number to chat. Send us a DM on WhatsApp, or you message us, or you send us a DM on this particular app that you're watching on. So if you want to paint your room and you are considering between satin and stucco, which one should you use? So the answer is, if you are somebody that needs something that's of low maintenance, go with satin. But if you are somebody that needs something that's luxurious and like, even though it might be expensive, you don't care about the amount, go for stucco. Now, why do I say satin paint is of low maintenance? Why? Because satin paint has been in existence for a long time, which means most people now know how to paint satin paint on their wall. So on the wall, especially most painters nowadays, even painters that start work last week, knows how to paint satin paint properly. But for stucco is just getting to Nigeria like not quite long ago. So most people don't really know how to use it yet. And the few people that know how to use it, the cost is a bit higher compared to satin. The other thing is that now, because there are only few people that know how to use stucco properly, the other thing is, if you want to do maintenance, let's say you want to change the color, or you want to do any other thing, so it will cost you more money compared to you just going to the market, buying satin on your own, and then you are getting somebody to paint it for you. So that those are the two difference between satin and stucco. But both of them are beautiful, both of them are easily cleanable. That is, anytime there's stain on it, you can easily clean them. So even though you have children, you have anything around, yes, you can use satin, you can use stucco, but satin is easily maintained, more economical than stucco. Yes, Mr. John. Yes, the driver already left. He left. The driver already left. So I asked them to send me the phone number of the person, of the driver, but I'm yet to get it. So, but he did not leave as early as we want, but he left around, is it 10, after 10? So that was when he left. Sorry, I was preparing for something. So he left already. He left already. Um, but even though I've dropped the material since around, is it to 6? Yes, to 6. I've been up since after 5, so to go and drop it at the park. So but I've dropped it, so he has left already. So this is thank you to Salahuddin Mustafa for the gift. I really appreciate you. It's a lot. It really means a lot. Thank you very much, Mr. Salahuddin. What is the best color for living room? So generally go for your living. So what's the best color for your living room? For your living room or any interior space, usually any light color is very, very beautiful. You can go for something like beige, and there are different type of beige. Beige has it has warm, there's warm beige and there's the neutral beige. Like the warm beige is usually the one that looks like off white, like the creamy off white. That's also called beige. And there are some that looks like pale mushroom or Abuja brown, the lighter version of that. So that one is neutral, close to neutral beige. Then you can also use neutral color. Neutral, there's a color we call neutral. Is something that looks like it's something that looks like dove gray, but it's not as deep as dove gray. It's lighter than dove gray. So that one too, you can also use it in your living room. Another color you can also use is silver gray. Silver gray is something that also looks very, very beautiful. If you see it, you love it. So those are some colors you can use in your living room. And you can also use white and off white, which is, even though people say it's common, yes, it's still beautiful. Yes, yes, Mr. John. Sorry. Yes, she told me she will send me the number, but I'm still expecting. You know all this, all this pack, but they will deliver your product. Don't worry. So that was why, because before I even collect the order, I have to call them multiple times before I say you should send money, because even me, man, I don't get strength to the trains driver up and down. They said they could not get passenger very fast, because the one I sent to Worry, was it yesterday? They move fast because I took it there around 5:30 or 6 as well. So, but they said for this one, they did not quickly get passenger. I don't know, maybe it's because of the sit at home that people, because Monday usually they say sit at home. Some people don't like traveling on Monday to the east again, so they could not get passenger fast. So that was why today's one was delayed to that 10 something. Because I've dropped it since that after 5 to 6 or since. So so, Mr. Kope, I don't understand the question you are putting in the chat. It says, what of Graffiato paint? I don't know what the question is about Graffitous paint. So, but if you can explain better so that I will know what you mean, so that I can explain better. Okay, so let's move on to the. I usually have when people call me is some people just. One interesting thing that usually happen to me whenever people call me is some people will just drop message and start speaking Igbo language. I'll just be like, some will start speaking Hausa and some will start speaking Yoruba. It's interesting to me that people use different languages. People assume that I'm from the north. Some people be like, are you an Hausa guy? I'll be like, no. Some people start speaking Igbo, different. So I wish I can speak all these languages, because I've had interaction with every part of all these languages. Even though I'm a Yoruba boy, I did my NYSC in Sokoto, which is a northern language, northern states. Even my parents stayed in the north for a while. So and I did my project in Onitsha, so that's Anambra State. So whichever language you speak, just make sure when you are messaging me, use English language. I'll be broken or Yoruba. So I wish I can speak all the languages actually. So, but it's very very interesting to see people messaging me and using different kind of language. So one of my students that I trained on content messaged me and he was like, "Oh, he's sad and everything." And I asked why. So, but then he told me a story. He said he posted a video and the video has about 80,000 views as at the time of him recording of him messaging me. And I was like, this is a good story. This is a success story now. He was like, no, people are leaving negative comments on the video. I was like, what happened? He said on that video he was teaching people that this is in quantity of wire. You need to rewire a particular, maybe a 2 bedroom flat, and people were like, it's a lie, you are a scam, you are this, you are that, in the comments. People were even cursing him, and I was like, no, man, let me check that mic. Is it Mike? Is he still talking? So, and I was like, don't mind them. It's just like, this is normal. Like, the reason you are seeing all those negative comments is that those people are, in most cases, are people that are also in your trade, people that don't want you to spoil their business. They know that if you saying, okay, maybe you are saying 100,000 we wire a 2 bedroom flat, and they've collected 300,000 from their customer. Do you think they will leave you and let you go? No, they will come out and challenge you and say, oh, what you are saying is wrong. Yes, I understand that some people might be like, oh, there are different sizes of 2 bedroom, and maybe the 100,000 you quote might be 150,000. Yes, there are some cases like that, but generally, in my own from my own experience, when I post video and say, oh, this is what we paint 2 bedroom flats in terms of painting, people will come after me and be like, oh, it's a lie, it's this, it's that, and I understand. And in most videos I will tell you that it is an average, it is on average. So if you are a content creator or a business person that's posting this kind of content, my advice to you is that continue posting as long as you are telling the truth. But as long as you are telling the truth and you are not trying to mislead people as well, just try to tell people, okay, this is what you need, but this is an average price. So don't mind all the negative comments, just ignore those ones. Look at the people that are saying, oh, I want it, can you help me, can you come and do this service for me? Those are the ones you should focus on. In fact, do part 2 of that video, do part 3 of that video, part 4, part 5 to part 20. So because that is what is working for you, and that is what will bring more customers to you, not the other guys that are trying to cover up their mess. No, we don't sell 10 liters of certain paints. Certain paints usually comes in 20 liter and 4 liters. 4 liters like this one. So 4 liters. So in Nigeria we don't use 10 liters. I've not seen, most paints are usually in 20 liters or 4 liters in Nigeria. So but I don't know, maybe in Ghana or any other country they use 10 liters. But in Nigeria, 20 liters and 4 liters. 20 liters is the biggest one. 4 liters is the smallest one. So there's no in between them. So if you need 10 liters, you might have to buy 2 or 3 4 liters, or you just buy 20 liters at a go. Yes, graphitex paint is good, is very good. My only concern about graphitex paint is that it's a trend. It's a trend, and it might go out of style. It's just like people painting test coats. Previously people used to paint test coats and they were enjoying it, but nowadays people that painted their wall with test coat 3, 4, 5, 10 years ago are now blaming themselves. Why? Because they've seen certain paint, they want to paint their wall with certain, but with the test coat on the wall it is very difficult to remove the test coat. Is either they do squiding or they use sandpapering machine to sandpaper the wall, which most people don't have the money to do. So if you are painting graphitex paint, just always have it in mind that when this particular trend goes away, you need something to cover all those all those track that they put on your wall. You need something to cover it before you now paint whatever paint you want to put on it. But if you are somebody that needs something that is very safe, that will not go out of style, that has been in existence, just go with any of these matte weather mask paints. So even with graphitex, in most cases you still need to repaint that particular wall if you want it to last. If you want it to last. OC General says, can you help me personally inspect my property in Ibadan? For me, I don't do inspection personally, but my staff are the ones that do inspection. Just send us a DM. We'll send somebody to your site to do the inspection. 09043575896. That's the number to chat on WhatsApp. 09043575896. Ijero Ekiti, thank you very much. So the person that's asking how many paints can paint 2 bedroom, don't let them come for me on this live. Just message me on WhatsApp, I will respond to you. All right, no problem. Trying to reconnect. Okay. Thank you to Inkiru Papel Tour. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Even though there's fun, this place is still feeling hot. No, I intentionally closed the window because of noise, outside noise. So please get a painter, Mr. Adebabalo Messi. Please get a painter to check the place for you. Thank you to Eliman Painter. Thank you very much, guys. Let's double tap on the screen. This live stream should be at 10K already. Let's double tap on the screen. Let's double tap on the screen. Now, if you have your wall that you've done squiding for a long time, let's say 2 months, 3 months, or even a year or 2 years, these are the things you need to do before you do painting. Why? Because if you just go and paint on that particular wall, you might realize that the paint will not last, and there are some patterns that will show on the paint that you will not like. So the first thing you need to do is to scrape off the surface, especially when you see all these green things on the wall. You need to scrape it off. After scraping it off, you need to apply a wall conditioner or biocidal wash to wash off all the algae away. So after that, you put primer, you paint primer on the wall. When the primer dries, then you can now use paint on it, first coat, second coat, whatever type of paint you want to use. So don't just go ahead and just put paint on that particular screeded wall, because it is most likely that you already have algae growth on the wall. Even though you are not seeing it visibly yet, there's algae growth, and there are some patterns and reactions that will have been on that wall. So make sure you use biocidal wash or wall conditioner, and on the wall use a primer and then paint. So that's how to protect your paints.
The only time you use a primer is if you want to change the type of paint, or if you
Here are some conditions that will warrant you to use a primer. So here are the only times you need to use a primer. The number one is if you are painting an empty wall, that is a wall they've not painted before, and especially when the what is on the wall is cement plastering or cement screening, a fresh wall basically. They've not painted it before, yes, use a primer, it will end up saving you a lot of money. Another condition that will make you use a primer is if you are changing the type of paint. For example, they paint the place with satin before, you want to change it to emulsion, or they paint the place with emulsion, you want to change it to satin, or they paint the place with one deep color and you want to change the color to another light color, yes, you need to use a primer. Why? Because for example, they paint the place with very deep orange and you want to change it to white, and you don't want to use too much paint, it is very advisable for you to use primer first before you now use that white. Why? It will make the white you are bringing to catch faster, like to paint, to color the place faster. Not that you now be seeing not that after you paint the wall you now be seeing your orange, the previous orange on top of the white. No, primer will help you blind that orange before you now put white. So another condition you might want to use primer, like I said, is when you see that your wall is not like the previous paint they paint on the wall is peeling, like is not too strong, or it has some stain on the wall, so you can also use a primer. Most primer in Nigeria currently, they have stain blocking characteristics, but if you have a very strong stain, get a stain blocking primer. For example, maybe the place burns down or something happened to the wall and the discoloration is very much, yes, get a primer to block the stain before you now paint on it. So those are the conditions that might warrant you to use a primer. So OC general, so it is not advisable. So even somebody says, is it possible to use a primer and then later do a light screening on the primer? The answer is you can do that, but after you do the light screening, make sure you apply another layer of primer, because your primer is meant to interact with your paint directly, not that your paint will interact with the screening directly. Your primer is meant to come between your screening and your painting. Primer is supposed to be in the middle. So if you do light screening on it, make sure you put another primer on that particular screening. Low battery. Okay, that thing you don't do. Your hand dey shake. not doing.
Is it not
Hold on.
this white one? Okay, no, no. You know what?
You
I
put it in
understand
the
one
middle.
thing. I can't use my hand block her off.
Okay.
So I should give a space so that I can see it.
Okay. Let me answer all this painting question before we move on to the dampness. I'm seeing some dampness questions. Uh, this is when you need to do screening. It is not every wall you do screening for. There are some walls that it's already flat and smooth. Please don't do screening on those walls. But for any wall that has bumpiness, it's not smooth, it is advisable to do screening. Why? Because you want a perfect finish. Like you want something that is flat before you put your paint on it. And most people don't know that they can save money on screening by just screening certain parts and leaving the other parts without screening. That is the truth. In most construction, for example, this particular office space we are, most of the walls are smooth if you look at it, and there was no screening. No screening was done because the wall is flat and smooth, and you can paint whatever paint you want to put on it. It will come out beautiful. But there are some places in this particular office that you see, especially around the window edges, the door edges where they were removing the door and everything. You will see that those places are not smooth. If you want to save cost on this particular space, you can just create those places and then leave the rest. But if you want something that is 100%, even though the wall is smooth, you can still do screening on the wall. So screening is meant to level the surface, but once the surface is leveled already, you don't necessarily need to do screening unless you have other reasons to do that. So if you have stain on your fridge or refrigerator and you want something to kill it, like all this black stuff or all this yellow stuff in your fridge or refrigerator, this is the perfect product to use. This particular product is called Atop Mode Defense, and it is not harmful for you. Like if it touch your skin, it is not harmful. So what you need to do before you clean it is to remove all the food inside that particular refrigerator. Apply this particular chemical on it, on all this place you see the stain. Wait for 30 minutes and then you come back with water and dishwashing soap. Use it to wipe all those places clean. It will be sparkling clean. And it will kill all the bacteria and all the mold in that particular place. So use a top mode defense. So if you need it, you can send us a DM. So a top mode defense is the right product to use to clean all those places. Even though in your kitchen you see some black stuff, use it on those places, spray it on those places. You'll be glad you did. So let's move on to the next question. So if you have matte paint, what should you use to mix matte paint? Should you add water to matte paint? The answer is yes and no. There are some manufacturers that their matte paint is very thick. If you put roller, you will not be able to roll it properly. You will not get good results. Use water in that particular case, and don't even put too much water. In most cases, for most paints, most manufacturers will tell you 10 to 20% of water. What does that mean? It means for every 20-liter bucket you can add 20-liter bucket, you can add 2 liter or 4 liters of water. Don't go and pour basia of water inside one small paint and then you say the paint is not good. No. 2 to 4 liters of water is okay for a 20-liter bucket of paint. So yes, for matte paints, use water to mix it. So water is the general solvent to mix your matte paint, or even ordinary emulsion paint, or even satin paint. Water is what you use. So should you screed your painted wall with cement screed? The answer is yes. So you, even though they've painted the place before and you want to screed it, why? Because the place is not looking smooth, it's not leveled, there are some bumpiness. Yes, you can still use cement screed on that particular wall and get a beautiful result. But after using your cement screed, please always get an alkali resisting primer, or you get a silicone based primer which also has some alkali resistance in it. So get that, put it after screening, put it you paint the primer on the wall before you now paint your paint. Yes, it will come out very beautiful. Even though they've painted the place before, yes, you can still do screening. Okay, I think we are done with those questions. Let me check. Okay, now let's check the chat. um Okay, John, thank you to Mr. John Francis for sticking around. Now let's answer some questions, some dampness questions right here. Let's answer some dampness questions right here. So somebody is saying, what type of paint is good for a humid environment? When the person is what the person means by humid environment is areas that are prone, that are usually wet. So, and the answer is very cunning, because when you say wet area, in most cases what usually cause wetness is uh what usually cause wetness is uh for example, you see your wall very wet, there are different scenario that can cause that. In some cases it is water from the ground. In some cases it's water in the air, like maybe you have a space, the window and the doors are always locked, and then you are cooking always, the water that's supposed to be evaporating will not evaporate. So that is also humid in that particular space. Now, so the reason I say this thing is corny is that now for example, for certain paints, if you paint it on a wall and water, like for example for condensation, like water, maybe you close your window and then water is the water that is supposed to be escaping is not escaping. If it falls on certain paints, on the surface of certain paints, it will not soak in easily compared to if it falls on emulsion paints, which means it might not have too much effect on certain paints. Now the other side is that if you have rising damp, that is the dampness is coming from your foundation, it will affect certain paints faster than emulsion paint or matte paint. So that's why I said the question is kind of tricky. But for you, the best thing to do, if you are considering, okay, you have your paint, probably the reason you are asking that question is that you have your paint that is peeling on the wall. The best thing you can do is to know why is the paint peeling. In most cases, when you see paint peeling on the lower side of your house, and you are on the ground floor, it is usually 90% rising damp, especially when it is consistent all around the house. So it's usually rising damp. So in that case, I would advise use products like Costa 2K and Crystal Coat or other damp treatment chemical to fix the dampness first before you now paint. So whatever paint you now want to use after that, after you fix that, you can even use satin matte or weather matte on that and you won't have any problem. So but if it is from condensation, there are also some chemicals you can use, but the best thing for condensation damp is to increase the ventilation in that space. I went to a very big hotel in Lagos here, and I don't even think they have window in their bathroom, even though they have some ventilation, but I can see water droplets dropping on the tiles because they have to tile the place up, the bathroom up, like everywhere, like there's no window. So immediately you finish showering like this, you see water dropping on all the walls, and that will have effects even if they close that particular place without ventilation. Maybe they off the ventilation system and then they close it for like, let's say, 2 weeks. You start seeing mold grow on those ceiling, because why? Water is already on the ceiling, there's no ventilation, then you start seeing mold growing there. So it depends on the kind of humidity you have, the type of dampness you have, that will determine the type of treatments you give the space. It's not about the type of paint, it's about the type of dampness, the type of humidity, for example. And if you are in a place that it's a waterlogged area, the best thing to do is not to find the type a good paint, because no paint can withstand water. The best thing to do is to get waterproof materials like Costa 2K and Crystal Coat to treat your house first before you now buy your choice of paints. Okay. Okay, Mr. Gucci Valentino. So I hope that answers the question. So, if you have a damp wall, here are some materials you can use to treat that damp wall, so that you will not so that your paint will not peel again. So the number one material you can use is crystal coat. So crystal coat is a crystalline waterproof material. So it comes in powder form. You mix it with water, but the first thing you do is to remove the blocks, the plastering on the block, so that you see the block itself. Why are we removing the plastering? The reason you are removing the plastering is that it is contaminated already, it's corrupted already. The plastering on that the plaster on that wall is corrupted. So if you did not remove it, it means you are putting good chemical, good structure, good building on a bad foundation, which means the building will still collapse. So what you need to do is to remove the plaster. After removing the plaster and you are seeing your block, your empty block, you now put crystal coat on that particular one. So after that, once you wait for it to dry, you wait for it to cure properly, then you put your Costa 2K on it. And if you are somebody that can also afford it, it's also good to put damp master. What's the work of damp master? Damp master is just uh damp master is a it's an hydrophobic material. Hydrophobic material means it will prevent it. Water is usually scared of damp master, that's the meaning. So that means if you have water from your foundation and you put damp master here, immediately the water hits the damp master, it will stop, it will not rise to come and affect your block. So damp master, you put it close to the base of your house. It's called chemical DPC. So that's the way it works. And if you cannot afford that, you can also try and get an experienced engineer, let them help you dig the base of your house, manually install the DPC nylon, and then before they now do the crystal coat and the Costa 2K, and then you replaster the place, and then your wall will be fine. That is if the wall is affected by rising damp. There are some dampness that are not rising damp. There are some dampness that's penetrating damp. But if the dampness is close to the foundation, that is on the lower floor, and you are on the you are on the ground floor of the house, and the dampness is consistent, that is all around the house, it's most likely to be a rising damp. But if the dampness is at the top, close to maybe above your window level, or even on your POP ceiling, that one is most likely to be a penetrating damp, or even a condensation damp. So you need to find the cause of the dampness before you know, okay, what type of treatment am I going to give it. But generally in Nigeria, let's say 70% of cases, it's usually rising damp issue that most people have. Thank you to Ray. Thank you to Mr. Ray. Thank you for liking the content. Yes, we work in Lagos. We work in most southwest states, most southwestern states. So one of our staff is on his way to Ilorin. So we also do projects in Ibadan, Abeokuta. We do projects in Akure. We do projects in Ondo. Any southwestern states mostly. That's where we work. Okay, they use stone paint. That you mean test coat paint. So if they've painted your wall with test coat paint, that is all this stone paint that are looking rough, and you want to paint it with smooth paint, this is what you need to do. The first thing you need, there are two options you have. One of it is to do screeding on that particular surface. Why? Because screeding is meant to level your surface, the surface of your wall. So after doing that particular screening, you can now say you use a primer and then you paint your smooth paint on it. That is how to remove it. The second option you also have is to use sandpapering machine. There's like all these small hand edge sandpaper cannot really sandpaper all those stones from the wall. So you use a sandpapering machine to remove those stones from the wall. So once you remove those stones from the wall, you'll be able to now puts primer and then paints the wall again. So those are the two options you have, but the one I've seen most people use is doing screening on the wall and then repainting the wall. Yes, it might be expensive, but that is how to remove test coat or stone paints on your wall to get a smooth finish. I don't know what you mean by weather plus primer. Good afternoon, boss. Giddy Fonts, thank you very much. Good afternoon to you too. All right, congratulations to Giddy Fonts. More success to your business. Welcome on board. Gusi Valenciano, you are welcome. Mr. Solomon, thank you very much for the follow. Okay. So if you have any question, leave it in the chat. If you have any question, leave it in the chat. So if you want to book any of our paints, you can send us a DM or send us message on WhatsApp 090 4357 5896 090 4357 5896. That's the number that reach out to us on WhatsApp. I'll be the one to personally respond to you on WhatsApp. Uh, So satin paint is 72,000, 72,000 for the big one, and the small one is 19,000. So small one is 19,000. For now we don't have delivery to Liberia for now. So if you have your damp wall and you want us to check for you, you can send me. if you have a damp wall, your paint is peeling, you can send me the video of the place on WhatsApp. I'll be there to respond to you to help you find solution to it. I think somebody just sent me a video. Thank you to Sweet Roslyn. Thank you very much. You can message me on WhatsApp 0904 357 5896. How much you said satin? Satin is 72,000. So 0904 357 5896. That's my number on the screen. 0904 357 5896. Just send a DM on WhatsApp, or you send a DM on this particular app. I'll be the one to respond to you. So it is not every wall that has peeling paint that is caused by rising damp or dampness. There are some walls that it is the screeding that failed. But how do you know? The best way to know is that if you've done screeding for the interior and then you did not do screeding for the exterior, and you notice that the paint is peeling or even the screening is peeling on the interior, what you need to do is to come outside of the house, check the exterior if the paint is peeling. So if the paint is peeling on the exterior and the interior, it's most likely that it is rising damp. Another way for you to know is the height. So if you have a paint that is peeling on it, okay, before that, so you should also check your neighbors if their paint is peeling as well. Is most likely, if their own paint is peeling on the interior and then your and the exterior part of the house is not peeling, is most like, and they do screening for your own place and their own place, is most likely to be screening failure or the type of paint they generally use to paint that place. But if the exterior paint is peeling, that is outside the house paint is peeling, inside the house paint is peeling, and then the height is not more than the window level or a little bit close to the window level, it's most likely to be rising damp. But if you now have the paint peeling, like it peel here, it go and peel in another place, it peel in upper side, it's peeling not regular, like there's no pattern to it, it's most likely to be that the screening failed, or the type of paint they use is of low quality, or it has been long they paint that particular place. So it is not every time that you see paint peeling that you say, oh, it's dampness. No, there are some conditions that it's not dampness, it's the material of the wall that just failed. What do we mean by fail? Fail means it was gripping to the wall, but the gum, the cap, its strength, its strength to grip to the wall has expired. Like it was holding to the wall, now it's tired already of holding on to the wall, now it will leave the wall, and then that's why you see that it's peeling in those cases. But the best way to know, actually know, is to get a professional to do inspection, which is what we do, to help you inspect that particular property to see, okay, is this rising damp, or is this just a screening or paint failure. So if you want to do inspection, send us a DM. We are always available to do your inspection for you. All right, guys, it's time to go on break. Then we'll be back in a very short moment. Thank you to everybody who has been joining. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you and bye for now. You can cut it. Let me rest more. So